Hello everyone and welcome to November's Comfort Book Club discussion of The Place of Tides by James Rebanks. As always, I'm joined by my mum Donna.
Hello everyone.
And we're really looking forward to chatting about this book together. Thank you to those of our readers who sent in a written message about the book. We look forward to reading those aloud at the end. But let's just dive in.
Yeah. I enjoyed it so much. I read it after you had read it a couple of years ago now, maybe?
Last year.
Yeah. And you really recommended it. And
yes.
I absolutely loved it. So thank you. And thank you for suggesting it for the Comfort Book Club. I think it's perfect.
Well, I found it a real comfort read because I found it a book that was very much about hope and friendship and connection. But one thing I really loved about this book is that it centres the story on a much older woman and about the wisdom that she has to impart. Yes. And I think that's quite unusual.
It is, isn't it? I mean, I think he's very much, Anna's the story, I'm just the storyteller type of idea. And I think it's lovely how he really focuses on her story, and even as it's given to him in bits and bobs and dribs and drabs, it comes out, and he makes such a fascinating tale of it. It is a fascinating story. I mean, that's why.
Yes, I mean, what he says is that it's an extraordinary story of an ordinary woman.
Yeah.
And I love that. Anna's one of the last surviving duck women of this very remote community in Norway, is just an ordinary woman in many ways.
Yes.
But in fact, she is also extraordinary.
She is, yes.
And I love that James Rebanks really saw that. Yeah. But he expected something different from Anna, I think, when he first went to the island, to Feroy, I think that's how you say it with her. And at the beginning, he admits that he was coming from a place of frustration. In a way, he wanted to escape his own life as farmer in the Lake District.
Yes. He said he was angry a lot of the time. Yeah.
Struggling with the death of his father.
Yeah.
And he did say he was angry. He was looking for some kind of escape, but also, I think, for some sort of answer as to how to live, or how to move on to this next stage of his life. And he saw Anna as this incredibly strong woman, which she is.
Yes.
But he also saw her as quite a remote, isolated individual. This was his sort of memory of their initial brief encounter.
He'd met her about a decade before, hadn't he?
Yes.
And I think he pictured her as being a sort of very alone, very aloof, really not relying on anything but herself.
Yes,
in her life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he felt, I think, that this is what he needed to learn.
Yeah.
But in fact, he learned some really different lessons.
He did.
Didn't he? Through
really
the book,
did.
From what he expected to learn, he learned some very different lessons from Anna. What do you think was one of the biggest lessons that he learned?
Well, I think he learned from her that no man is an island.
Yes.
To quote Don.
Yes.
That in fact that she relied on so many people, and that she had this wonderful life helping the ducks, but it had been very hard fought for her. Mm-hmm. She for many years would have had absolutely no money paid to her for this work that she did, that took months of the summer every year. And you also felt that she really had to find this work for herself. In many ways, she had the experience before, it was in her family, but she adapted it to her possibilities as she got older. And when we meet her, she's actually willing to retire. And it's interesting in the book because she comes to a place of accepting her retirement.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I think he definitely learned that far from being this strong woman on her own, although Anna could be on her own.
Yeah.
In fact, she really relied on her friendships, her connections with
Her
other
family
people, her
too,
family.
yeah.
That other people were very important to her. And he also said that she had a remarkable capacity for forgiveness.
Yes, I thought that was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson that he really took away
Yes.
from his sort of few months with her. She was also an incredibly resilient woman.
Yeah, very, very much.
And he really brings that out in the story as well. And I think he really learns a lot about patience, both from her and from the island and the ducks, in a way.
Absolutely, because you could tell that he was used to an incredibly hectic life, bustling about, running hither and thither, trying to fit everything in, and to go back to a very different timing.
You know, and he really struggles with that. Initially on the island, it's like he wants to be up and doing something every day. But before it's time to really start preparing for the ducks, and then before the ducks arrive as well, there's actually just a lot of sort of sitting and waiting. And getting into just this sort of much slower pace of life.
Sort of island time,
island time. It's a real challenge for him at the beginning, but then you feel him slowing down finally, starting.
He says he learns to walk slower at the pace of Anna. You know, this is what he begins to do. So everything does sort of, and even I think the clock has stopped. That they've got, you know, that they don't actually really need to know what time of day it is in a way. But we talked a bit about some of the lessons that James learned from Anna, and I'm curious about what sort of lessons or what takeaways did you have from the book? Oh, I think I loved the way she has such a hopeful character in the face of, you know, the Ida ducks are just not arriving on the island like they used to, and it's dramatic, the decreases, isn't it? It's very hard, sort of tearing to read about it. And also I think Anna really took seriously her role as a human being of actually helping the ducks and being like a sort of mother figure to them in a way. She protects them, she helps them with the nests, she knows what's best for them, she knows when they need quiet. And in fact that was part of the community, wasn't it, that they had when the ducks actually
start to kind of
come off the water and just sort of trying to get them to come to the island, to the nest box.
Period of time that's given a special name which I can't remember.
Vartig or something like that.
Where everyone has to be especially quiet. So even any boats going by and things like that. I loved that detail.
And the way she adjusted her life between her life in her home on, you know, in the sort of small town or a big town. I'm not quite sure how big it was, but across the I mean they can see it from the island. But she adjusts her life there and she adjusts her life on the island. It's the right place, right time for her and for each time. And I think that really spoke to me. I think the hopefulness in the face of, you know, the changes in the ocean, the minks being a huge problem, predators, you know, and all these things, and how even they thought that because the ducks aren't weighing as much as they used to, you know, they're not feeding up as much before some of them would leave the nests early by the end of the season because they couldn't actually survive just sitting there any longer. I found all those things something that if you can be hopeful in the face of that and do your thing for your small bit of land or your small bit of people or whatever, it really makes a difference.
Yes, I think that's so true. I think I really took that away as well, that incredibly hopeful aspect of the book, or the way that she's able to sustain hope against the odds in some ways, but also this idea of just doing your bit, whether that's on your own small patch of land or just doing whatever you can. And that's a really hopeful message.
It is, and I like the way too she taught. She was teaching Ingrid, her friend, really the ways of how to be a duck woman. So that when she
makes sure that the lessons pass on. I think, tradition was obviously something that was really important to her.
Yes.
And passing on this amazing tradition of being a duck woman. She was proud that this had been in her family and she wanted it to continue as well. I thought that was very special. And one thing I really took away from the book too was Anna's ability to just sit and look in a way. She spends so much time just observing the world around her. And in fact, that's a really important quality for being the exceptional duck woman that she was, because she's really observing the natural world around her.
Weather too is
the
so
weather,
important.
And she spots predators before anyone else does.
She does.
She can almost sense them coming. Predators to the ducks, obviously. And I loved that there was this emphasis on how important it was to just sit and look.
Absolutely, and that she has a time to stand and stare. Basically, she sits and stares, but it's really important what she sees, and it affects her decisions on what she's doing and everything.
And I think it was a reminder to me that sometimes you don't have to be busy all the time. No. Sometimes you can just stand and stare or sit and stare and look at the world outside your window, and that there's a joy and an importance too in actually registering what's going on around you and sort of learning to read the little clues in your environment.
I love the way that she and Ingrid would sit, and they would be looking out the window all the time, looking at the weather, looking at if there were any ducks, but they would sit and do something with their hands. So she was knitting a sweater, which I think she finishes at one point, and I think Ingrid did at least 2 pairs of socks that she was knitting, and you kind of wish that you could have seen them.
Yes, I know. I bet they were lovely. I liked those little details, and also that they'd cook like lefse, like this sort of thin pancakes. For breakfast and have jam with them and these sort of little details.
How he first of all put, I think it was the plum jam on top of the smoked cheese or something, or he did something that the 2 women were like,
what are you doing?
This Englishman.
Yes, but I thought it was very much a story about friendship.
It was. And how important it is, and how life enhancing.
Yes, Anna and Ingrid were obviously already friends. But they also had to learn sort of how to accept and trust James. And I thought it almost sort of mimicked how the ducks have to learn to trust and sort of accept the humans and come onto the island, and you felt there was this parallel in the 3 of them learning to trust and accept each other in this time period as well. And by the summer they have and you feel there's a real friendship between all 3 of them, which is also really nice. I thought I liked the way that James also spared space and time for Ingrid in the book as well.
Yes, very much.
And told part of her story. Yes. And I thought that was really well done. But the sense of place was just incredible, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, I've never been lucky enough to go to Norway, but this area, right, just below the Arctic Circle, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, and you felt like you knew it. It was so good, the description.
Yeah, just so evocative. I loved the scenes where they see the whales, the sort of pod. That was incredible. But I would also say that James takes care not to just romanticize island life at all.
They describe how much rubbish, it's heartbreaking, isn't it? And they'd only managed to get through a bit of the island to clean up the plastics and all that.
I mean, just
it's
awful.
Really awful.
But also the human life that is taken with a life on the ocean. They all knew people who had died at sea, essentially. so, you know, I thought that was well done too, and that it wasn't just a sort of romantic view.
No,
and what this life
I
was.
love the way that he tied the pod of whales who have come back, and it thrills Anna because she knows then that there are enough fish there to attract them, and the grandmother is on the outside, and she talks about, these could be, you know, either perhaps even the same whales, but or at least descendants of them that she would see as a girl, you know, in the area.
Yes, I know. I loved that. I loved the sense of folklore that came through as well.
Was amazing.
Some of the stories about the island and these kind of mythical women.
Yes, with mermaid hair.
That feature. I really enjoyed that as well, and I think that really added to this sense of place and culture and traditions that you got from reading the book.
And I love the use of language, like even how he calls it in the book a place of tides, because that's one of what the local people call this area and island, and yet, you know, there are other names that, you know, and he said even he calls Anna a duck woman, and he decided that one, but there are many different translations of the names and stuff. I thought it was fascinating how rich that sort of language is about, you know, the area, and how they use a different terms than even maybe is more current in Norwegian in further away places.
You're right. I enjoyed that as well. But let's get the messages that readers sent in. So the first message is from Laura, and she said, reading Place of Tides has been a sort of peaceful meditation on nature, traditions, and our role in protecting them. Anna really captured my heart. She represents a precious link to an ancient way of life. I have written down many quotes about her in my commonplace book. Rebanks describes her as a queen in her silent rebellion against modernity, and he writes, Anna was not a poet. Her poetry was her life, her work, and her depths of love for the island. What an incredible lesson to transform a life into pure poetry. Thank you, Miranda and Donna. This book has been a real source of cultural and emotional enrichment. Oh, I love that, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful line from the book. And sort of living a life of poetry in that way. I think that's such an amazing way to say it. And I agree, I found this just a really enriching read.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too.
So much to think about, and I just loved learning about a really different way of life and a different culture like that.
Yes.
And I hope it continues.
Yes, me too.
Yes. So the next message is from Marie. Would you like to read this one?
Yes. I would like to contribute to this month's Comfort Book Club discussion, The Place of Tides. The Place of Tides is the story of a way of life that is slowly disappearing, and two women's attempts to keep it alive. A story of history and tradition, but more than that, it's also a story of the author's life and how he changes in those few short weeks of the summer that he spends on the Norwegian coast, close to the Arctic Circle. It's a story about mindfulness and the importance of forgiveness, not only of oneself, but also of others. Anna knew that a life full of other people meant accepting their weaknesses and still being there for them. To be surrounded by people who love and admire you is one of life's greatest gifts, and one that we should all treasure. Oh, thank you, Marie.
Yes, thank you, Marie.
There really is that feeling that Anna has this tremendous kindness and also awareness of, keeping these family connections.
Yes, and I love how at the end of the book you see her more within that wider community, not just on the island, back at home and with those she loves around her.
And we learn of how much she did for the old people's home there, how she cooked for them and cooked them things that they loved and took care of them.
She's such a nurturing person.
It
really comes over. And then Miriam said, thank you for recommending The Place of Tides for our Comfort Book Club. The author's style was smooth and fluid and made for a very pleasant and informative read. His detailed descriptions of the rain, fixing up the duck boxes and scrunching up the dried seaweed to make the nests for the eider ducks made me feel like I was right there with him, Ingrid, and Anna. I liked how he gave so much credit and respect to these women, yet still admitted and wondered why the local men didn't seem to share that respect. In those 10 weeks, Anna and Ingrid grew to trust the author after at first being sceptical of his potential contribution, and the author himself experienced a profound metamorphosis in his own life and attitude. And personally, I learned a lot about eiderdown and how it's harvested. Now I want one of those duvets once I win the lottery. Yes, us too, Miriam.
Yes. It was incredibly work intensive.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to get
when you
dust.
learn all of what goes into making an eiderdown quilt.
Yes.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, no wonder they probably, I don't know how expensive they are, but one imagines very, because there's so much work.
I know, I haven't actually looked it up, but yes, if they are, I'm sure they are very expensive, but you can see why.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then our next message is from Erico, if you'd like to read that one.
I was deeply moved by Anna's extraordinary strength and determination to carry on as a duck woman, despite her advancing age and ill health. But what I most enjoyed reading about was the close, loving bond between Anna and Ingrid, who was Anna's assistant. These incredible women shared mutual respect and understanding. Together they have managed to achieve the seemingly impossible. It was interesting to see there were no men around, and that the author, as an only male, felt out of place at first, almost an intruder coming into Anna and Ingrid's quiet world. To me, this book is a celebration of female strength and friendship. Thank you very much for choosing such an inspiring book. Well, thank you, Erica. That was lovely. I agree with you. It's so life-enhancing, this book, isn't it? And it is. There's a lot of mindfulness in their life, that's for sure.
Yeah, there is. And then Ivana just sent in some of her favourite passages from the book. So she loved these lines from the prelude section. There was something still alive in her that had died in me. I had seen it in her eyes. I needed to go back and work out what it was. And then her other favourite passage was from the main part of the book, and it was, Anna reminded me that the first rule of living is to live, to see, hear, smell, touch, and taste the world. I was beginning a journey back to the person I had once been and needed to be again. I'd go for walks over the fields on sunny nights. I'd sit with my back against a rock or climb into the lower branches of a tree and watch the world happening around me. Thank you, Ivana. Those are beautiful passages.
Yes.
I think he really found peace, actually.
I do too.
It felt like there was a bit of return to peace for him.
Yes, absolutely.
By the end of his time on the island.
I felt that too. You felt he would return, having brought the wisdom of Anna and Ingrid and the whole life and traditions back with him, and remembering his own and where he came from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for those lovely messages. Thank you to everyone who read along with us. Don't forget, next month we'll be discussing No Holly for Miss Quinn by Miss Reed, one of our favourite Christmas reads. Looking forward to that. But thank you so much for watching, and see you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.